Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Gareth and Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down the
It's the 49er Faithful UK show. Week 6 is done, and having spent 5 weeks punching teams in the face, finally, one team, the Browns, decided to punch back, handing the Niners a 17-19 loss. It was a messy game, and potentially lots to unpack, but it is just a narrow margin defeat on the road to a team coming off their bye week who also happen to have the league's number one defence. In the preview show, we talked about how is that possible. I think now we all know why they've got the number one defence. I'm Gareth Ellis. And joining me for some reaction, but not overreaction, it's the one and tonight only, Nadgy.
Hello, everyone.
So Lee and Paul haven't made it back home in time after the watch party to join us tonight, but hopefully they will be back maybe even later this week to talk about, result aside maybe, what looked to be a great meet-up in London. Onto the game. We've got the dirty job, Nadgy, of having to unpack the muddy Browns game.
First therapy session of the year.
It is. It's been smooth sailing, no roller coaster so far. So we were due.
I know. I was saying it's pretty funny. Whilst I was watching with my partner, and I had this sinking feeling. I just didn't like the vibe, and I just said to her, "I don't miss this." And we used to have this every week.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did feel like the beginning of last season, didn't it? A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, have you got 3 talking points, Nadgy?
Not really. It's more of a 3 bullet point statement. I think it's a bad day at the office. That's 3 word for me. Bad day, office. It happens, and we're gonna talk about it. Everything that went wrong.
Yeah, I've got trying to sum it up. I think offense overwhelmed. That's one thing to talk about. Flags flying. Not a pretty game for the penalties. And fair play to the Browns for everything that was bad. I think the Browns had a very, very big role in making us look bad. They disrupted everything offensively we were trying to do. And let's not forget, we came up against a team with a very good defense and a very good game plan.
Yeah, so, if it wasn't the Browns, I would actually root for this team because I really like the vibe, but there's no way.
Yeah, it's not often we've seen a team that can match us physically, and I think the Browns did that. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Not a good day at the office for the offense. Weather didn't help, but it's the same for both teams, and certainly the Browns' defense didn't help. But I think also it was generally a bit of a funny game. We did look out of sorts, particularly after Debo left. What were you seeing, Nadgy?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things, and as per usual on this podcast, we're going to obviously try and stay positive and look at the future, and we can look at things that went really well too. And I think that's why we need to take off this game offensively is, despite everything that's gone wrong in that day, and you've mentioned it, we lost Debo, we also lost Trent for a while, who apparently didn't really play 100% and just took one for the team. Because he didn't want to leave Jalen Moore against Myles Garrett. And then losing CMC, and then the weather, and then it's probably a lot colder than San Francisco and Cleveland, and a road game against a team after a bye. It starts to amount little by little, and all those margins get even smaller, and then they eventually are past you. But I think ultimately we had a shot to win this game, and that's really all we could have asked for in a game like this. It was choppy, started in warm-ups. We knew it was going to be a dirty, muddy battle, and that's exactly what it was. And I think I said it in Discord, I think we win this game 9 out of 10 times, because if a couple of things go our way, and we'll talk defense in a minute, but Fred, instead of getting tackled by PJ Walker, walks in the end zone, we win that game. Ayuk catches the ball in the first quarter that is just off for a big gain, we win that game. If he leaps and lands inbound and carries on running, we win that game. And if Jack Moody doesn't miss 2 field goals, we win that game. So much has gone wrong. And we were this close to win the game. So I think there's a lot of positive as well as a lot of negative. But if we want to start with negative, let's say this guy, number 13, appears to be human. It's
He's not a bot.
no, the rocket ship has slowed down somewhat a little bit this week. Maybe got pulled by some black hole or something. But yeah, it was far from perfect. Really odd though. I think, to me, what the one play that resumed the night the most is when he just kind of lost a fumble, a ball that just kind of slipped out of his hand, and he didn't really know where it was. Managed to recover it, but that's kind of summarized exactly what for him it must have been like to play under the circumstances in that defense. Um, it was just a lot harder to do anything, and the Browns gave us a really good showing. And kudos to Jim Schwartz, who's been doing it for a long time now. But he's good, and he's very good against us as well. So yeah, yeah, I think Brock looked human. Clearly, his worst game as a Niner. But again, he's put us in a at the end of the game on the last drive. He put us in a position to win it, and you can't really ask for much more than that in the NFL. Sometimes sometimes the game is hard. It's the NFL.
Yeah, yeah. I, the stats aren't gonna back it up. He clearly he had a poor game. I think there. I don't think it was terrible. I think it's the kind of game where you've seen rookie quarterbacks can completely crumble in that
Yeah.
sort of game, and I don't think he did. I think he kept at it. I think the Browns did an excellent job of stuffing up the run lanes, took away that element of our game, made us a little bit more one dimensional, and we're then able to lock that down. So then that made it really tough, I think, for Purdy. And I
Yeah.
think what I picked up most was the amount of pressure he was under and the amount of times he seemed to have to be throwing off his back foot. He
Yeah.
wasn't able to step up into the gap formed by the pocket moving around you, and get those laser passes forward. He always seemed to be on his back foot, and I think that certainly contributed to a few of the overthrows. I think, as you said, it's a wet ball, and it's also
Mhm.
the receivers in that wet weather. Little bit of a slip, little bit of heaviness in the boots. They're half a yard behind where they should be.
Sure.
Combine that with a
Yeah.
slight overthrow, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think wet ball. I'm not going to hang him out too much to dry, but certainly there was a couple there that Ayuk probably should have held on to, and I'm sure he'd agree with that. We've seen him make tougher catches than that. And
Yeah.
of course, there was a load of defensive pass interference calls. I think 4, which were incomplete passes, but incomplete for the reason of someone being wrestled to the ground and unable to catch the ball. I
Yeah.
thought he handled the pressure quite well. I thought he coped with it. And as you've said, all that matters is you drive down the field and get us in a position to win the game. And he did that when it counted, right at the end of the game, when clearly I think the O line was a bit blown by the end of
Mhm.
the game. I think that's partly Shanahan's had a bit of criticism for moving away from the run game. I think the run
Yeah.
game wasn't working. McCaffrey was out, and I think you could see that the O line was a bit shot, and they weren't going to be able to make it into the second level to make those run plays work. So I'm not overly critical of that. But I think you covered it, Nadji. All those little 50-50s, all those little margins, everything went against us in that game,
It did.
in a lot of respects, and we still only narrowly lost due to the
Yeah.
missed field goal, which
Yeah.
perhaps we'll talk about later. But
We will.
certainly the penalties
Oh.
were a big
Yeah.
issue, I think, offensive and defensive side of the ball. The Browns had their share as well, but certainly thinking about ours, I can see a lot of our offensive line penalties are a product of the Browns' defense being really good, unsettling us, and possibly Trent Williams' injury. What do you make of the offensive penalties, Najee?
Yeah. They, as you said, they're usually a symptoms of one or two things. Either they really hate each other and they're just going at it, or the other team is very good and you're doing all you can to try and stop them and hope to get away with it. And I think it's more of the latter. In that case, the Browns' of defensive line was all over us, and yeah, I think Trent not being 100%, and I don't know, Burford and McKivitz, I don't think had a bad game, but it was far from perfect
Mm.
compared to what they've shown against Dallas. Um, it's definitely amounted to all of those penalties on, definitely on offense anyway. And there's nothing more crushing to an offense to actually get a good play finally when you've been struggling for 2 quarter plus, and it turns out that there's a hold or there is a hands to the face someone that's actually definitely helps you get that play, and this is what. But it's soul crushing because you thought you had 10, 20 yards, and you're backing out 10, 20 yards. It's difficult to get in rhythm when it's like this. But yeah, I think it was always going to be a game like that. It's really weird because Lee's talked about the history of those two teams playing each other, and there's not really a big history, but I have a feeling after a game like this, if we play them next year and maybe the year after, and you never know what's going to happen, but there's definitely some kind of new rivalry that could emerge from this game, and we'll all remember that one time where we almost won it and kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little bit.
Well, I think that showed before the game, actually, with the little bit of scuffle that was well publicised. All seemed a bit of handbags. But Trent Williams is a big guy for a handbag. So,
oh God, I just knowing the fact that he's there, I just wouldn't start any fight. It's just it's not worth it.
Foolish. Yeah, we certainly weren't helped with the offensive penalties. I was disappointed. Hopefully, Purdy will learn from his couple of intentional groundings. I think that's the desperation of not wanting that negative play.
I will say,
and you make it worse.
Yeah, I will say I think for some reason the NFL is really putting an emphasis on it. It's happening in every game. There's a lot more grounding than there used to be. I think they're really applying the rule to the letter now. Because you could have made a case, especially I think on the one where he falls down and kind of tries. Like BA was kind of in the area, and I can see this last year maybe have been put. I mean, I know he didn't reach the line of scrimmage, but
that's the killer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the killer. But yeah, it's not just happening to this game in particular, Brock. I've seen it. I've seen way more intentional grounding than I've seen in the past. It's happening like more. I think it's trying to restore a little bit of balance and helping defenses. Because the game is heavily slanted towards offense. But
yeah, I didn't have a problem with the calls. I think that's learning for Purdy.
Not that one.
He's trying to avoid the negative play and made it worse. And sometimes that's just a decision made. Unfortunately, there was the one negative intentional grounding by PJ Walker, which was a fumble every single day of the week. I'm not sure what the referees saw at game speed. It's certainly when it went for the review, I think everyone was saying that is a fumble, but there's just not enough to turn it over from the on-field decision. That's another one of those fine margins. That was a game-changing moment. If they let that play out as a fumble, Bosa's walked it in for the touchdown. There's a minute left in the end of the first half. It's 17-7, and it's an entirely different game. But it wasn't to be. Also, some messy penalties on the defensive side of the ball, both actual penalties and some imaginary penalties dreamed up somewhere in the referees' union. What did you see, Nadgy?
Well, you know me. I don't really like talking about refs. They're people just like us, and they do try to do their job the best they can. They don't set out to screw anyone over. It's very hard to do this job. I challenge anyone to go and try it to figure out how hard it is to actually do. But yeah, no, they didn't have a good day. That's for sure. But I will not subscribe to the fact that the refs have lost us the game. There certainly is a few calls that I'm still scratching my head about, and I'm sure Tash and Gibson thinks the same.
Absolutely.
Which I would have probably sealed the game too. But you don't lose a game on one particular play. It's not football. That's not how football works. That's it. I don't want to really talk about refs. I don't like doing that. It's not play better, and you don't have to worry about it. Ultimately,
I agree. If you don't take your chances, you're giving the referees the decision that they're going to be the deciding factor in the game.
Exactly.
And I agree. But again, they were just those little things that just didn't go our way. On that day. I've got to say, I think we've been fairly fairly lucky, I think, so far this
We have,
season. I
yeah.
can't think of any particular refereeing decisions I've had a problem with, and I think we've possibly got away with a couple. I can certainly
Maybe, yeah.
think of a dry slap delivered by a couple of offensive linemen that on another day might see them taking an early shower. So
True.
maybe this is just evening it up.
Very true.
What about the play calling? A bit introspective. I know there's been a bit of few overreactions. People with the narrative about Kyle not being able to close out games. Do you have any issue with him at the end, towards the end of the game? Certainly.
If we're talking about the timeout and not trying to get closer, he explained it, and if that's the reasoning at the time and that's what you want to do, that's what you do. It's very easy to critique with insight, as always. I think it's a sound plan to have a timeout if you have a bad snap. It's windy, it's wet. We don't want to pull a Tony Romo in the playoffs. I totally get that. Would I have preferred handing the ball over to Mason to get probably another 8 yards because that's what he does? Absolutely. But I'm not the coach. I don't get paid. I don't think that's what I would have done. And I would, I would have put my trust in my holder and my kicker to nail one play instead of having a backup in case it goes wrong. But I get the reasoning. I'm more annoyed by the drive before we gave them back to them and they scored that touchdown. We should have run the ball on that drive. 100% should have given it to Mason. And I know the game plan is out of the window. We got no Debo. We got no CMC. We got an injured Trent. It's not as easy as, we'll just run the plays that we run, because all of our offense is on, looking one way and doing something else. And if Debo and CMC is on the field, you can't really do that. It's pretty obvious what you're going to do when you have Mason, Ayuk, and Kittle. So, I'm a bit annoyed on that front. I think we could have chewed way more clock. We could have potentially punted and pinned them down and make them work a lot harder to score the last touchdown. But again, we put our trust in the guy that's been playing the best on our team, which is Purdy, and it didn't happen. Again, with insight, it's so easy to look back and say they were wrong, because they obviously were. Otherwise, we would have won. It's not what I would have done. But I totally get why. I could have beat Sway. I'm sure that if I'd been on the sideline and I would have said to Kyle, look, we should run the ball, and he said, no, we're passing it because Purdy's on fire and he's our best guy, I would have been, no, you're right. That's what we should do. It's a hard one. Critiquing the coach's decision it's always a weird one to me. It's damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of situation. Play goes well. If it works, it's a genius, and if it doesn't, you should be fired.
Yeah, same play call.
Same play call. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you're talking about when we were 17-16 up, and got the ball back with about 3.5 minutes, I think. Slightly odd maybe to go for it, a pass on first down, but I think obviously the run might have been just a bit too obvious. And that was the one where Brock got caught for the intentional grounding, and then suddenly it's 2nd and 21 or something. Yeah. So then you've got to throw it. Then we end up throwing it 3 times, 3 incompletes, and we punt the ball and take 16 seconds off the clock or something. Didn't work out as planned. But again, this was just another one of those little things that went away from us. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more trust in Jordan Mason in the latter part of the game. I think we've seen this before, that Kyle does tend to move away from running the ball when we're behind late in games, and want to put a little bit more onus on throwing the ball. I don't quite understand it. Maybe it's changed a little bit with Brock and he trusts him a little bit more, or obviously with CMC out and it's just Mason. And clearly Mitchell, I don't think is fully fit, regardless if he's medically. He's certainly not match fit. So let's move on from that one. I think that we've got to the business part of the game, the end of it, and the missed kick. I don't have a problem with Shanahan saving the time out and a bit of time on the clock. It does make sense. I think partly because it takes the pressure off your snapper and holder that they know they could botch it. So suddenly they won't. They won't ever, because they know they've got that backup.
Yeah.
And I think it was 41 yards. I think Kyle is fully within his rights to trust. What's the difference between 41 and 38 yards? Because
Yeah.
that's roughly on a running play. That's all you were getting, 3 and a bit yards per carry. So if you trust your kicker from 38, why not from 41? It might well have made the difference, given that his kick just drifted at the end.
Yeah.
But it's another one of those little margins that didn't go our way. I think in some respects there's a lot of things that we've been able to flush out this game. We've lost the first of the season, so you don't have the whole unbeaten pressure. Purdy's lost his first regular season game. Moody's missed a big field goal. These were all inevitabilities. And I'm being philosophical about it, quite happy that we've got them done early in the season rather than these happening later in the season. It's not about making the mistakes and it's not about losing the games. It's always about how you react to them. I think, particularly in this case for Purdy, to react to the adversity of a bad game, and obviously for Moody, to be able to get that out of his brain and forget about it entirely, because that's his job. He's a kicker. They've all got to be a bit mad to do that job. So hopefully he'll get himself in the right headspace. He seemed pretty level after the game. You could see the disappointment, but I think obviously he was speaking to people in the locker room, and I quite like that from a player. If people are saying there's not much emotion there, you don't want them too high, you don't want them too low. He was disappointed, but he didn't look crushed. I don't know. Some people might expect that, but no. It's a game.
Well,
it's done. You can't get it back.
There's every personality in the world. Some people would have cried, some people would have not cared at all, and he looked pretty disappointed in himself and annoyed. But I think that's one of his good qualities. He's pretty stoic. He's one way, and it doesn't really change whether he makes it or whether he doesn't. I think that's a good quality to have in a kicker. The pressure clearly doesn't seem to phase it all that much. But yeah, it was we had concern during preseason. It was a first real big test, and he failed it. But it doesn't matter. He'll have some more, and ultimately, at the end of his career, if he's made more than he has missed, then it will be a good career. We were reminded by Paul, I think earlier today, that last year Robbie Gould missed a 41 yard to win against the Raiders. Luckily for him, it was a tight game, and he got to redeem himself, but he missed it. It was 41 yard. Everybody crying for Robbie Gould to come back. Robbie Gould has missed a lot of kicks as well throughout his career, and he's missed winning games.
And that was in the air-conditioned dome in Vegas, not the wet and horrible fading light, I think, in Cleveland.
Exactly. The last message I want to say, I am fully supporting of Moody. He's our kicker. And the same way we support any QB or any player that wears the red and gold, he's got my full support. Until he's not on the team, he's the greatest kicker we've ever had. And that's all we need.
Apart from Vizcaino, obviously.
Apart from Vizcaino. Hall of Fame Vizcaino, of course.
Defense put in another good performance. I know a lot of people made a lot of it being a third string quarterback. I having seen him before, I think PJ Walker has actually got a winning record as a quarterback. Yeah, because he won like 4 or 5 games at Carolina at the back end of last year. I think he's to me, he seems like, why hasn't he got a number 2 job somewhere? He's pretty confident. He made a couple of mistakes. But he also, particularly in the latter stages, he made a couple of very good passes and did find some gaps in our defense. But what did you make of the performance, the Niners' defensive performance overall, Nadgy?
No, yeah, I want to start to say that. Very surprised how PJ Walker looked, and it made total sense that he would start over DTR. He played really well, considering he's off the practice squad. He made us look bad at times, and that's all you can ask for a quarterback. But yeah, I think our defense is shaping up. We're getting there slowly, and this one was definitely a hard fought, but you can't really ask them for much more than what they gave us. 19 points is not a lot. especially in that kind of weather, especially when a couple of ref calls really go against your way and put your back against the wall. But 2 picks. The first one was incredible, well read by
yeah.
Fred. He's a machine. He's so good. Fred is so very good. Just as I said, very, very nearly a pick six, and obviously changes the game. I always want them to try a lot harder than they do, but it's very difficult. You should be able to stiff arm PJ Walker. Come on, you're Fred Warner. But yeah, Lenore, good pick, although it was a slip. Just read it really well and took the chance and the opportunity. And Bosa, again, that call, definitely a fumble, definitely recovered for a touchdown and all that. Yeah, you can't really ask them for much more. The trick play was very well played.
Their touchdown. It was that
The
was a good
Karim
play.
Hunt, and yeah, they apart from that they didn't really do much. Yeah, Amari Cooper is a good player, and he made us. He was 108 yards for 8 catches or something, and one incredible catch on Money Ward. But yeah, I think our defense played pretty much as well as they did against Dallas. They didn't dip, they didn't play better, but it's starting to take shape, and now we can see turnovers are starting to pile up. And I think if we're on that right track, come week 16, 17, 18, we're going to be ready and dangerous.
I think it was a good shift. I was very impressed to see how much energy there still was at the end. Particularly a couple of those ref calls don't go your way. It's easy to get that frustration and lack of focus. I think we kept that. I think we kept them to the field goals. We kept giving our offense a chance, and that's for the defense spending a lot of time on the field because we had so many 3 and outs in that sort of third quarter period. And I thought it was going to really wear them down, but they got some yardage, but we kept them out of the end zone, and I think that was an excellent performance, which was deserving of a win. We just couldn't quite get there. Randy
And
Gregory.
we were missing Dre, so
Yeah.
not even 100%. And I have to say, Oren Burks and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowle really played really well as backups and stepped in and had a good game. I can think of Burks having that saving touchdown tackle on a big play. Was it on Goodwin or
I think so.
Hunt,
Yeah,
maybe?
the jet sweep.
Great
I think
job.
it was.
So,
Randy Gregory made his debut. Made a bit of impact.
he did a sack on the first game. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I think he's gonna fit just right in. That's good. It's a good trade. It's from a C minus to a B minus according to Discord. Every time he made a play, the trade grade got a little bit better. We're obviously taking the mick out of.
A C when we're swapping the 6th and the 7th, and we're paying him
No,
about
it was
minimum.
it was us referencing the infamous CMC trade C minus that somebody's given us. So we were having a lot of fun with that on Discord. Yeah, no, it's good. Since we saw Kevin Givens played well last week, but Hyder, and I've said it, I think before the Dallas game, we need all those backups. The project. I think the Homeniu from a year ago, and all those people, the Jordan Willis, and all those people that aren't with us anymore, to show up finally, and all these names that we want to talk about because they made an impact. Because that's what we do. We're just very deep at D line, and one week is that guy, the other week is that guy making a play. And I think he's going to be one of those guys. It wouldn't surprise me if he finishes the season with 7-8 sacks and a bunch loads of tackle and a big play here and there. But yeah, no, good to see. Good trade. We paid nothing, so it's great.
And I think he's going to be getting a lot of snaps at the opposite end from Bosa. I'm not quite sure what has happened to Drake Jackson.
A bit of a sophomore slump.
Pretty absent.
Amazing first game, obviously with the 3 sacks, and then nothing since. Maybe he's going through a bit of an Ayuk phase. Uh, it's not as easy as you think it is. You're gonna need to work harder, so you're not gonna play until you do work harder. And look what it did to BA now, being completely reliable and our number one receiver. Maybe that's what Jackson's going through at the moment, and he's getting taught that you can't just show up on game day and expect to play. You have to put the work in. Don't know. This is me speculating.
Yeah, worth speculating on. I'd like to see him back contributing again soon. Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything we can out of the game. Player watch. There's only the two of us, but I'm not sure what Lee would have said about McKivitz. And I don't think Ronnie Bell took anything other than special team snaps. So
no, that's true.
Jordan Mason.
But we can talk about the two that are absent. McKivitz, I quickly touched on it earlier. I don't think it was too bad. I don't think it was too great either. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really pay that much attention to him particularly. Ronnie Bell, yeah,
Shocker.
I know. Well, it's Lee's job, not mine.
Yeah, of course.
Ronnie Bell, as soon as Debo was out, I thought maybe could be one of the story of the day and could make an impact. Yeah, that's what you need from your team sometimes. Your main guy is down, and then all of a sudden number 10 shows up, and he did it once. He didn't do it yesterday. It's a shame. But yeah, Jordan Mason. What can you say? I love the guy. He's so good. He ended up averaging. Let me find the stat exactly because
I think it's
want to get that right.
6.
It's 5.4 yards per carry. So, I mean that's brilliant. Why did we not hand him the ball more? 5 yards per carry, 2 carries, first down. Job done.
I think. I mean, he certainly earned my trust. I was surprised Shanahan didn't lean on him more without McCaffrey, and I think sometimes that's got to be done. You stick with your game plan, and you stick with the offensive line trying to open those holes, and you make sure that you've got a guy who can go through them. Having said that, I think the O-line did struggle. We struggled particularly at the second level, and obviously we had a few tackles for loss, but that was a ferocious Browns D line just getting in amongst and filling the gaps and just plugging everything up. So hard yards for Mason there, but he's a big lad. Yeah. He's the kind of guy I think he's exactly what I wanted in that game. He's been safe hands, and you always know he's going to get one more yard than he should. And in a game of fine margins, or at least one more yard than he should. So good.
Yeah, and a good touchdown. That's 2 in a row now. So chasing McCaffrey for the record. He's got a few games to go. But I'm happy. He's clearly number 2 as well because Mitchell was there. Took 2 snaps, 3 snaps. That's good. I'm very happy. What about your guy? Do you want to know? What did he do?
Bit up and down, a bit up and down for Demo. I think he got certainly burned badly by Amari Cooper, but I think that's he does slip over. So you get a little bit of sympathy for him, and obviously Amari Cooper is a good wide receiver. He's still got something left in the tank. I think he has dropped off people's radar as being perhaps the top 10 receiver. He was generally thought of at Dallas. But he showed, particularly with that sideline catch, as you said on Ward, he's still got something in him. Good interception from Demo though. Disappointed he did miss a couple of tackles in the wet. I think there was one where they had that big run. I think where you said Oren Burks took him down at the end. I think Demo had a chance to get him 3 or 4 yards earlier, and he just seemed to be like a greased pig. Couldn't get hold of him. Disappointed, but I'm sure Demo will be as well. And he'll bounce back. Should we dust off the score predictions table?
I'm not even going to bring it up because we did very poorly this week. It's a big fat 0 across the board.
No one scored anything.
No one scored any points. I can remind everybody.
So Lee had predict 17 for the Browns. I thought someone did.
No one did, unfortunately. I was very close. I think I was the closest, but not close enough. So Lee had 37-7. I had 30-14, so I wasn't that far off. Paul had 32-13, and you had 31-9.
Yeah. Got the
Yeah,
field goals right, but they obviously sneaked in that touchdown.
that's it.
Anyway, yeah, let's
the last touchdown took it out for me, unfortunately.
let's flush that game as well and
Yeah.
come back to the score predictions. I think we've just about covered it. Record time, Nadgy, since there's only the two of us. Have you got
That's
anything
fine.
else to add before I wrap things up?
No, just a reminder, we will talk about the watch party, what was learned, what wasn't, how was it good, was it not good, all of this. It was definitely good.
It did look good.
I wasn't there, but it looked good.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, Lee and Paul are going to talk about it. I'm sure Paul will talk about it with Nick during the live tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Absolutely.
This should go probably tomorrow morning. I'm working from home, so I'll edit this.
It's Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning for the people listening on Wednesday or Thursday. What are you doing? Listen on Tuesday. No, apart from that, we'll move on to the Vikings, and not much else to say.
Do hope everyone enjoyed the watch party. There is
Yeah.
a post on the Facebook group for some feedback from Lee. I know some. I think the party was good. Some of the things perhaps surrounding it and the access and the size of the venue. I do understand why a couple of people might have been left a little bit disappointed. But it is all a learning curve, and the people who were there seem to have a good time. And it does look like there was a sort of secondary spin-off meeting at another venue. So it's great to see at least we be able to get Niners fans together in the same place at the same time. And Nadgy's got something he needs to say.
I did have something else to say. I just want to nip it in the bud. It's not a bud anymore, but I want to nip this notion of the curse. Because yes, it feels like every time we have a watch party, the 49ers lose. But you have to all remember, watch parties have been a thing way before the 49ers got involved. And I would like to report that as an official watch party of the UK faithful, we are actually 6-3. So
that's true.
We went back and looked with Lee. And we all remember the biggest game, the Saints in Edinburgh. That was a watch party, and we won. So there is no such thing as a curse. Yes, the official 49ers watch party are 0-3, but we are 6-3 with the UK and 6-6 total. So it's neck and neck. So the next one is definitely the one that puts us over the hump, and there will be a win. I'm sure of it. Will happen. It might even be the Super Bowl one.
Well, that I was going to say that will be the Super Bowl watch party.
Exactly. So no such thing as a curse. It's just bad luck.
Good. I think that bud definitely needs to be nipped. We love finding patterns where there aren't any, are there?
Exactly. So, we do that well.
You can say we've always lost on Sundays as well. So
it's true. That's very true.
It's you can read into it what you want. Anyway, thanks for joining me, Nadgy, and thanks to everyone who listens to and watches the show. And we do appreciate any feedback. But I think this week, provide the feedback on the watch party. That's what I think we really need to take back to Santa Clara. But it did look like the event was very successful. And I'm jealous of all the Joe Staley pictures. Although, to be fair, if I had my photo taken with Joe Staley, I doubt I'd make it up to about his belly button. So it's not quite the same when you're getting the man hug. But the podcast will be back later in the week. Hopefully, Paul and Lee will do a watch party one, and then we will be back to look ahead to the trip to Minnesota to face the Vikings, because the NFL doesn't stop. So while it's not the result we wanted, we'll take the loss and we move on. So flush this game, look forward to the next one, and go Niners.
Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Gareth and Nadgy, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down.